Hello and welcome to the show. Now, regular viewers of my content will know I am a very big fan of muscle cars. I just love the simplicity almost of them. They were designed to be as fast as possible, over a quarter of a mile drag race, to have as much power as they could possibly fit in the cars, while still remaining, well, affordable and really rather cheap. This Dodge Charger, for example, has more power than the contemporary Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Lamborghini Miura has 350 horsepower, this has 425, and it costs a fraction of the price of the Lamborghini, and there were many other alternatives for you to choose from. Of course, the downside of having all of that power and the fact that this was built to be as cheap as possible is that the handling was never really quite there with them. They are not the easiest of vehicles to drive, they are not the best on the brakes, they do have an awful lot of body roll through the corners, but they're not undrivable. You give them enough respect and you'll be able to get them around a track fairly well. Yeah, they were built to do drag races, they did that very well, they were very cheap. I really do quite like muscle cars. I like the look of them, I like the sound of them. I personally think they are absolutely fantastic, and there were many great rivalries between them. One of the biggest was between the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet Camaro. We have here the '69 Mustang Boss, a car that I actually quite like. In all the muscle cars wars, I'm more of a fan of the Dodges, the Chargers, the Challengers, etc. I do quite like some of the Mustangs. The Shelby Mustangs are probably my personal favourite, but I do still like the Boss. Unfortunately, the Shelby Mustangs aren't in Forza 5, so I'm just working with what I've got here. The Mustangs were never really the most powerful of the muscle cars, though. While Ford did have the most powerful in the Galaxy, not the people carrier, there was a muscle car called the Galaxy that had some 600 horsepower, which is crazy for a 69 car, or 60 whatever car it was. Yeah, the Mustangs themselves, apart from the very high-end Shelbys, were never the most powerful. This Boss, for example, has a mere 290 horsepower. Not too heavy, though. On the muscle car front, this was quite a lightweight one, 3,200 pounds. The Mustangs tended to be a little bit on the lighter side, maybe not quite as much power. I think the Mach 1 had some like 370 odd horsepower. But yeah, the Mustangs were never the most powerful vehicles, but they were by far one of the best sellings. For example, in the first full year the Mustang was on sale, they sold over 500,000 of them. That's an awful lot of cars. And of course, once everybody saw that the Mustangs were doing so well, it wasn't long before all the other manufacturers jumped on the bandwagon and made their own. This was one of Chevrolet's examples. There were many different Chevrolets. This is, of course, the Camaro that was to be a direct opposition for the Mustang. This particular one, the SS, again from 1969, was a little bit more powerful than the Mustang. This had 375 horsepower. That's a lot. That is an awful lot. The Chevelle, another one from Chevrolet, was one of the most powerful. Again, that was 425, I think. There were many different variations of muscle car, all with an awful lot of power. Yeah, they all handled relatively similarly. Having driven all three of these around Indianapolis, they were all very much of a muchness. They were quick accelerating, decent top speed for what they are, bit of a handful through the corners. The brakes were never very good, but I do like them, and the American public liked them at the time, as yeah, there were many various muscle cars. They all sold very well. Unfortunately, the muscle car fever didn't really last very long, and while in sort of the late 60s, early 70s there were loads of muscle cars to choose from, emission regulations came in and basically spoiled all of the fun. It really did sort of ruin the party. By, I think it was 1973, the Pontiac Firebird was the last remaining really high-powered muscle car with sort of 370 horsepower, but it wasn't long before even that fell. This is the 1979 Camaro, the Z28 being, you know, the highest level of Camaro at the time, had 175 horsepower. In a few years, the muscle cars had lost 200 horsepower, which is a bit of a shame, really. The names remained around, you know, Camaro, Firebird, Mustang. The names still remained on cars, they just weren't really muscle cars. They were barely cars, really. Yeah, they were fairly terrible. They were underpowered, or very underpowered. They just weren't particularly exciting anymore, which was a shame. The muscle car period lasted for not very long, sort of 8-9 years probably, before it kind of died down because of various regulations. However, there is good news, because lately muscle cars seem to be coming back. With modern technology, they can give the cars an awful lot of power for not very much money, and they can still pass all of the various emission regulations, which is very good news for all of us, because it means Ford can come up with this. This is a Shelby Gt500 Mustang. It has 662 horsepower. Let me put that into context for you. That is more power than a Lamborghini Reventon, Lamborghini Murcielago, Ferrari 458 Italia, Audi R8 V10 Plus, a Lexus LFA, Celine S7. The list goes on and on. This is a ridiculously powerful car. 0 to 60 time, 3.5 seconds. It'll be doing 100, 7.7 seconds. Top speed, 201 miles an hour. Yes, it is all very, very fast, and in true muscle car fashion, doesn't cost very much money. This costs a mere 60,000 credits. That's it. That's a quarter of most of the cars that I just named. It is absolutely ridiculous. This car has incredible power, incredible noise. Again, I like the look of the new Mustang. It still remains noticeably a muscle car. It will certainly stand out amongst normal vehicles, this thing. And all of this costs 60,000 credits. That's it. That's all you pay for this car. It really is quite ridiculous value for money. Of course, there are some aspects which we can't test on Forza, for example, comfort and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to talk about the performance aspects for this. Now, the handling is what has let previous muscle cars down, if you like. They were never the easiest things to drive, and this is a little bit different. Not a huge amount different. It is slightly better. There isn't quite as much body roll. The brakes are a little bit better, which they would need to be, considering this is quite a bit faster than the classic muscle cars. But it is still very much a point and squirt car. It's good fun, don't get me wrong. You will have a huge amount of fun driving this car, but it won't be the fastest vehicle around the track. You will have to be very, very careful on the power. You can do it, and that's why I say it's a bit different from the early muscle cars. If you are very cautious, if you take an awful lot of time, you can get this car around the track fairly sensibly. You know, it's not got terrible grip, it's got decent enough turning. It will oversteer very easily, as you could imagine, but if you're careful on the throttle, you can just about get away with it in the Mustang. But it is still a fairly hard car to drive, this one. It is not light and dainty around the track. You've got to be very careful. The brakes, yeah, it struggles. It struggles quite a bit under braking. I mean, this is not the lightest of cars, 3,800 pounds, which is in fact heavier than all of the classic muscle cars that we saw at the start, I think. It's not the lightest of vehicles, so yeah, you do notice that weight going through the corners a little bit. But all in all, you know, you can have a lot of fun with this car. It's not absolutely terrifying, but it requires a fair amount of concentration to drive around a track, which is not really surprising considering the amount of power. This is the Mustang's rival from Chevrolet. It is up against the Camaro ZL1. This has to make do with a mere 580 horsepower. It's still an awful lot. That's still more than quite a few of the cars that I mentioned previously. It's still a very powerful car, this one. Price, 51,000 credits. It's even cheaper than the Mustang. I a video a while ago I named this one of the best value for money cars. It really is. Again, acceleration wise, 3.8 seconds to 60, 8.7 to 100 will go on to a top speed of 195. Yes, it's a little bit slower than the Mustang, there's no surprise. It's 80 horsepower less and weighs a couple of £100 more. It's not surprising the acceleration isn't quite there, but that's still incredible amounts of speed for the money you pay for it. 51,000 credits is not a lot for this car. It's incredibly good value for money. And then we get to the handling, where things get even better. This is a very weird car to drive. To look at, it looks fairly similar to the Mustang in many respects. It's still the same big, aggressive stance, very noticeably a muscle car, sounds very good. It's still all very much muscle car-like. Until you come to the corners, where it isn't muscle car-like at all. This is not a point-and-squirt muscle car like the Mustang is. This is a very, very good handling car. It's a remarkably good handling vehicle. I don't know how they've made it drive so well. I really don't. There is so much grip in this car. It is almost... You have to be trying to get this vehicle out of shape. You can be exiting, first gear, second gear corner, put the power down. It's fine. It will deal with it. You can be incredibly aggressive with the throttle on this car. And it's fine. It has absolutely no problems. The Mustang, you have to be careful. You can get the Mustang to behave, but you have to be careful with it. With this, you can do whatever the hell you want almost, and it'll be fine. It will deal with it. Even if you've got things absolutely completely wrong and going sideways, it's still controllable. You can still catch it. It's incredible, this car. It really is. It's... I was not expecting it. Like when I drove the Lamborghini Veneno, I didn't expect that to handle as well as it did. Even though that's all four-wheel drive and everything, and I know how good Lamborghinis are, I never expected it to drive as well as it does. This is just something else. It really is. It has so much more grip than it has any right to. It really is a very, very good car to drive. Downsides, there aren't very many with the Camaro. As I said, it does weigh £4,000, or just over £4,000. Braking is a small bit of an issue. It's a little bit better, I think, than the Mustang, but it's not a lot. You still have to give this car a... You've got to be careful on the brakes. It'll take you a couple of laps to get used to where you have to brake with this if you haven't driven this kind of car before. You will have to brake a little bit earlier because of all that extra weight. But having said that, it's still a remarkably good car, this one, to drive. Yeah, it really surprised me just how well the Camaro drives around a track. So I was thinking, you know, we shall have a race between the pair of them, take them really out of their comfort zone. So me and Daniel headed to Long Beach to race the pair of them. Yeah, why not take some modern day muscle cars around the tightest, twistiest, nastiest track we could think of? What could possibly go wrong? Off the line, the Mustang is the quicker of the two. There is no doubt about that. And down the first straight, the Mustang could pull at a little bit of a gap. Tried to get to the inside in the Camaro. May have eaten a little bit too much curb. You've got to be careful of the curbs in Forza 5, because they will cause problems if you hit them a bit aggressively. Having said that, within two corners, I was back right on the rear bumper of the Mustang. Daniel goes around a corner, dips the... Oh, there's kind of a bit of a nasty camber going on that bit of track. Dips the back wheels over there, gets the car sideways. That's all the invitation I need. Put the Camaro up the inside into the next corner, and the Mustang can't really do very much about it. He tried to hold it around the outside, which was never really likely to happen. And again, in the next corner, the Camaro can just carry so much more speed through these corners. It can put the power down so much earlier, even though the Mustang is the quicker accelerating car by a noticeable amount. It's not humongous golfing class here, but a noticeable amount. The Mustang has no chance of catching me down these fairly short straights. Again, through this next very, very fast left, well, not very fast left-hander, it's just kind of like a long left-hander. And I think I can't remember if you're flat out through there or not in these cars a while ago. We filmed this. Through there, Mustang doesn't stand a chance. And then we come onto this long straight. I can put the power down at that final hairpin better than the Mustang can. So actually, I think, well, on paper the Mustang is quicker launching, quicker accelerating. The Camaro can put its power down a lot better, so a lot of that advantage is sort of minimalised, if you like. The end of the straight, the Mustang has caught up a little bit. It is a faster car down that section, but we come into some more corners. And even me being all out of position through the roundabout, the Mustang can't do anything about it. Daniel can't put the power down in that car enough to catch up with me. And that's how things continued for many a lap. We kept circulating. The Mustang could never catch me. And the difference really between these two cars is I wasn't really having to push the Camaro. At no stage did I ever feel under threat from the Mustang. I never had to really push the Camaro to its absolute limits. I could just have fun. I was getting the car sideways a few times, and there was nothing Daniel could do about it. He was trying everything he could in the Mustang. It couldn't catch up. It just could not keep up with the Camaro around this track. You see the tyre smoke coming from my car. Daniel was, was certainly pushing the Mustang. There was nothing he could do about it, even on the straight bits. I was too far away, had too good a drive off the corner, could carry too much corner speed where the Mustang simply couldn't. Yeah, I was surprised, shall we say, by how much quicker the Camaro was. When we're talking about the game's PI system, the Mustang is 4 or 6 PI higher than the Camaro. They're both towards the very top of B class. I think the Mustang is. The Camaro is a little bit lower, but the Camaro really does well and truly have the Mustang beat around here. I think we did 7 or 8 laps, and Daniel tried everything he could, and he just could not keep up. And it wasn't long before the inevitable happens as he goes over the cambered bit of road, and sure enough, the Mustang has a spin, manages to recover. It doesn't bump a wall or anything, but that's the thing. You have to push the Mustang so hard to even vaguely keep up with the Camaro that you're going to make mistakes when you're running it right on the limit like that. And that's what happened in the end. I took a very, very comfortable win for the Camaro while the Mustang was struggling. Now, admittedly, that track probably favoured the Camaro a little bit more than we had expected. So I had intended to be showing you a replay of us racing at Road Atlanta, a track with a very, very long straight and then a lot more straight sections in that. The reason why I'm not showing you that at the moment is Daniel may have got a little bit angry with his Mustang. Even at Road Atlanta, with all its long straights, the Mustang was nowhere. He couldn't keep up with it. He spun the Mustang out a number of times. He may have got very angry and rage quit. At a track that is traditionally a lot more straight line speed based, the Mustang still couldn't keep up. This Camaro is really rather very good when it comes to the corners. So to assess just how really rather very good, I told Daniel to go and get a handling car, something that you would expect to beat a Camaro around a tight and twisty track. Have a guess what Daniel might have thought to bring to the next race. It doesn't really take very long because, sure enough, he has gone and got a Lotus. Both these cars still stand. The Exige, I think, is a little bit lower PI than the Camaro, not by a huge amount, but we expected the Exige to put up a pretty damn good fight, considering this is a tight, twisty, one of the tighter, twistiest tracks that we can use in Forza 5, and as we come into the first corner, it's almost a replay of the first round, only this time it was the Exige that ate a little bit too much curb. At this stage, I was thinking, okay, I've got the lead. If I can stay in front through this section, if I can defend well, I can probably make it quite hard for the Exige to overtake, because, you know, it's a fairly narrow track, this. Overtaking could be a little bit of a problem on a street circuit, so if I've got the lead after turn 1, maybe I can hold on by defending, and then we'll have a nice long straight coming up, and then maybe I could fend the Lotus off and we could have a surprise result around this track. Then some odd things happened. The Camaro started to pull away from the Lotus. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. Sure, the Camaro is going to be quicker in a straight line. It's got a hell of a lot more power. But the Exige is an awful lot lighter, much better brakes. Should be much better through the corners. Again, it's a much lighter car. But it cannot keep up with the Camaro through the tight and twisty sections. None of this made any sense to me. But the Camaro is just better through the corners than the Exige. And then we come onto a long straight where the Camaro is again better, has a lot more power. Sure, it has got a lot more weight. Acceleration-wise, fairly even, but once you sort of get going over kind of 100, then the Camaro really does start to pull away. The Exige cannot keep up through the corners. That's what really got me about this. The Camaro is better to drive through the corners. It's more reliable through the corners. The Exige was a little bit twitchy. Daniel was struggling putting the power down sometimes. You don't get any of that in a Camaro. The Camaro has 580 horsepower, and you can put the power down better than you can in a Lotus Exige. Admittedly, Daniel did start to catch me a little bit through one of the corners, but then he'd throw it away by pushing through the next corner, have a problem somewhere. He just couldn't keep the Exige at the same speed as the Camaro over the course of the lap. He had to push the Exige so hard to keep up with this that he just made the odd mistake here and there, then he fell back. Yeah, I'm astounded by this result. This wasn't what I expected to happen. I honestly expected to be defending for my life. If I was going to fend off the Exige, I thought, you know, I've got the straight line speed advantage. maybe we can hold that down the start-finish straight and then defend for the rest of the lap, and then we can run away a little bit down the straight. That wasn't the case. Daniel could not keep up with the Camaro. He had to push the Exige unbelievably hard if he wanted to sort of vaguely keep up with it. It was odd. I really didn't expect this particular result. The Exige isn't a bad car. Don't get me wrong. It's not a particularly bad vehicle. It just wasn't as quick. It wasn't as controlled almost as the Camaro through the corners. You'd turn in with the Exige and the back end would perhaps start jumping around, you start getting some oversteer, you go to put the power down, you'd be getting some wheel spin, and again the inevitable happened with the Exige, and it ended up facing backwards. Again, no point did I ever really feel particularly threatened by the Exige. I never had to really go for it with the Camaro. I could drive fairly safely in many respects and just keep the position because the Exige could never get close enough. So after the spin I slowed down, I let Daniel catch up so we could go on for a little bit of a duel and see how the cars did some more, just for a bit of fun really. And the Exige just couldn't outmaneuver the Camaro. It was much better on the brakes, it was far superior on the brakes, but the traction, the acceleration you got from the Camaro was more than enough to overcome that. They both carried fairly similar corner speed really. It was the braking that was the noticeable difference between the pair of them. Through the actual corners, they both carried a lot of speed, they both had an awful lot of grip. The Exige got up at the inside of me at that corner, but I had no real fear. I could get it up the inside at the next one. Daniel couldn't hold it around the outside. The Exige is just not that much, it's not better than the Camaro when it comes through the corners, which makes overtaking almost impossible when you've got a car that's faster than you in a straight line and your car isn't really better through the corners. You're going to have a very hard time catching up and overtaking. Yeah, under braking, Exige is much better. No, absolutely no doubt about that. But everywhere else, the Camaro is equal than or better than the Exige. So the Exige just simply can't catch it around this lap. Again, never really felt threatened by it. So in the interest of fairness, because I'm a bit better at Long Beach is probably my favourite track on the game, we thought we'd swap vehicles. We'll do the test. Me drive the Exige, Daniel drive the Camaro. As you can see, the results are exactly the same. I honestly prefer driving the Camaro. I think it's a bit of a better handling car than the Exige in many ways. The Exige is a lot more twitchy than the Camaro. Camaro is so much more stable through the corners, much nicer through them. I will point out that on the very final lap, I did actually catch the Camaro. Through the rest of the race, I've been struggling. If you are 100% on it with the Exige, you will catch the Camaro over the course of the lap, and then the Camaro will pull away once it gets on the straight. But you have to be on that 100% limit all the time if you're going to make any progress at all. And you don't have to be with the Camaro. You can be half asleep with the Camaro, and you will be absolutely fine. Yeah, it is incredibly good, this ZL1. It is... I can't think of anything wrong with it. I have really absolutely no criticisms of it. Yeah, the brakes aren't as good as the Exige's, but, you know, it's a £4,000 car. It never is going to be. Yeah, it is staggeringly good, this car. All for 51,000 credits. That's it. That's all you pay for this car. And it is... yeah, it's astonishingly good. There is not enough words to describe how good this vehicle is. The Mustang is good fun. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy messing around with the Gt500, and Daniel would agree with me. It is a great car to just mess around with. But if you want a car that you're actually going to try, you know, race competitively, you're going to race against other vehicles, it's not quick enough. It's not good enough through the corners. It is still very much the point and squirt muscle car that the classic vehicles always were. This new Camaro, though, is very different. If it can outmaneuver and outdrive an Exige at Long Beach, yeah, it's a pretty damn good car, this one. And I really do quite like it. A massive recommendation that if you haven't tried this car, you give it a go. It will most definitely surprise you, and it is certainly worth the money for what it is. However, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.